So you guys have enjoyed my deep dives into why conservatives do not understand their favourite music, their favourite films, their favourite TV shows. Often it boils down to them liking an aesthetic or liking a surface level narrative, but not actually understanding either context for things they like or themes and stuff like movies, which makes them look even more ridiculous when they try and pretend more left-leaning, works of art are actually conservative. So we've talked about how conservatives think Bioshock, Metal Gear Solid, Red Dead Redemption, even things like Blade Runner, how these often promote like pro-conservative messages. Today what we're going to talk about is the recent backlash about Captain America. So that includes the stuff you might have seen on the 4th of July, but also the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Talk about how these people think that Captain America is suddenly getting woke, and how they don't actually understand the character, whether that is the cinematic version or the comic book version. I'm going to plug my social medias and Patreon for about a minute, so skip that stuff if you're not interested. But before we get any further, a lot of my work on this channel is demonetized because when you're covering more serious, sometimes edgier topics, YouTube doesn't like this. So if you've ever enjoyed my work, please consider becoming a patron. And you don't have to pledge a crazy amount. I want to build up my Patreon based on as many people as possible pledging little amounts, like $1 or $2. So if you feel like I have ever brought anything that's worthwhile into your life and my content, please really consider becoming a patron to help me continue to do this, regardless of if YouTube monetize or not most of my videos in a given month. Also, if you want to join our communities, come check out our Discord and my subreddit. Those links in the description. And if you want to follow me personally, please check out the Kavernacle at Twitter, at Instagram, and also my personal Reddit, where you can keep up to date with all my content and what I'm doing. So I realized before I did this video, I hadn't actually finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I sat down and finished the last episode today. I didn't think the show was anything special. I mean, it was entertaining enough. It was well made. It did have some interesting elements to do with race and Captain America, though. And I really did like the character of Isaiah Bradley, this, first black Captain America who was hidden from history and experimented on. And he's extremely bitter about this stuff. I really liked his views on America and stuff. What I didn't really like was how he eventually came around to Sam Wilson being this black Captain America. I think it could have been interesting to have left Isaiah as like this bitter former Captain America who will never accept, what this country has done to him. And then as a parallel, you have Sam Wilson, a new black Captain America, who wants to be like the symbol of a new progressive America. I think that's quite a nice juxtaposition. So I'm kind of annoyed with that. And what I would say is it's very soapboxy, it's very preachy. Of course, I like the message that Sam Wilson says at his big speech at the end of this show, which I'm going to read for you in a sec. And ultimately, I think the message of the show is actually quite a weak one. And I think it gives like lip service to more left-wing ideas or being more critical of America, but I think it might give the appearance this thing is more meaningful than it is. Because aside from Bradley's character, I don't think it properly gets into any of the issues it really flirts with. So hopefully I put somewhere that there's going to be spoilers for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but after Sam and Bucky have saved the day, Sam talks to the politicians that he saved, people who are trying to reshape the world and rehouse people who came back after the blip, the Thanos snap where everyone disappeared. So Sam says, your peacekeeping troops carrying weapons are forcing millions of people into settlements around the world. What do you think those people are going to call you? These labels like refugee and thug, they're often used to get around the question, why? I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? Every time I pick this thing up, I know that there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. Even now, here, I feel it. The stares, the judgment, and there's nothing I can do to change it, yet I'm still here. No super serum, no blonde hair, or blue eyes. The only power I have is I believe we can do better. We can't demand that people step up if we don't meet them halfway. You can control the banks, you can move the borders, you can knock down a forest with an email, you can feed 1 million people with a phone call. But the question is, who's in the room with you when you make those decisions? Is it the people you're going to impact, or is it just more people like you? So because of speeches like this and about him being hated for being a black Captain America and stuff, a lot of the anti-SJW channels labeled this as like woke garbage. It's not true to Captain America. So if you type in like Falcon and Winter Soldier SJW, Yellow Flash 2, Marvel Slam with instant regret, game over for Marvel, the quartering, Falcon and Winter Soldier get woke, viewership tanks after woke moment in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, politics is ruining Falcon and the Winter Soldier, ratings disaster for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So people are mad about the new Captain America being supposedly woke. And I always find it interesting how just, you know, this liberal sort of criticism of racism and the American system really sets these guys off. It's nothing like too scathing or something that isn't obvious. I guess for me, I liked hearing it in a Marvel show because I guess, you know, that's progress and stuff. But I don't think it's the biggest revelation I've ever heard. But to these people, anything like that just sets them off. Now, something that also set them off, and conservatives in general, was a new Captain America comic where he talks about the American dream being a lie. Now, before we get into this, I find it hilarious that these people are mad about criticism of the American dream. You know what also criticised the American dream? The 1930s Scarface movies, tons of movies in the 40s, 50s, and 60s about how the American dream doesn't work for a lot of people. Of course, the Scarface remake is a massive criticism of the American dream as well. This isn't an uncommon trope you see in a lot of films. Because as America is a nation of immigrants, there are lots of immigrant stories to tell and lots of immigrants who at different periods didn't feel like this American dream where you can come to America and work hard and be successful. They didn't feel like it worked for them. So sorry if I got these panels the wrong way round. So he says, the lie is a real problem because it comes in the form of an empty promise. A while back we told the world that they could come here for a better life, but too often we turn our backs on them. Instead of a dream, they get handed a raw deal. Then there is the second dream. This one's real, but we don't hold it or own it. Heck, we can't even touch it. We reach for it, we work, we toil, we struggle, we fight together. We may never reach it, but we never stop trying. That's my dream. The white picket fence fallacy that if we're not careful becomes nationalism, jingoism. That isn't a dream. That dream isn't real, it never was. Because that dream doesn't get along nicely with reality, other cultures, immigrants, the poor, the suffering, people basically come to be seen as different or un-American. The white picket fence becomes a gate to keep others out. So that's nice to hear in a Marvel comic book, but it's really not anything I haven't heard before. Of course, conservatives went pretty crazy, and one anti-SJWs are loving is Dean Kane, who played Superman. So let's get his quotes on this new Captain America comic. So he says, I love the concept of Captain America, but I am so tired of this wokeness and anti-Americanism. In my opinion, America is the greatest country in history. It's not perfect, we are constantly striving for a more perfect union, but I believe she's the most fair, equitable country anyone's ever seen. And that's why people are clamoring to get here from all over the globe. So Kane goes on to call himself a revolutionary for the somehow radical act of supporting America, a country with a long history of and present day problem of rampant nationalism. And he says, do these people ever travel outside America? Do they go to other countries where they have to deal with governments who aren't anywhere near as fair as the United States? I don't think they do. I do it all the time, and I kiss the soil when I get back. So clearly a very patriotic American guy. Now Ryan Kennel of Geeks and Gamers alum also was loving this stuff, so let's have a quick look at his video.
So Dean Kane, former Superman actor who's very outspoken about his politics, very outspoken about what's going on in Hollywood right now, he came out and took a swing against what's currently going on in comic books and woke comics in general, talking about specifically what's going on with Captain America. Now, he goes into much more detail about the American dream. Basically, what he says is it's not an American dream because everyone can't have it. It's not equitable enough for minorities and for the poor and all these things. So the American dream's really a lie until everyone can experience it. And that's such a weird way to look at it in general. And that's what Dean Kane is saying. That they're basically bashing what current day America is. If you take what Steve Rogers, Captain fucking America, is saying, what he's saying is that until everyone has an equal outcome, then the American dream for some reason cannot exist. No, that is what makes it the American dream, because everybody has that opportunity. It may not be the same exact opportunities that everyone has had. You might not have this leg up or that leg up. You might not be as smart as this person. You might not be as strong as this person. But the opportunity is there for everyone if you work hard enough, if you try hard enough. That's what the American dream is about. And like Dean Kane said, that's why so many people come here from all around the globe. And the truth is that it is now popularized in comic books, in Hollywood, in entertainment, in video games to bash America. They think that it's acceptable. That's the narrative that they're going with.
So again, these conservatives are so fragile that criticizing the American dream is like the worst thing you can do. These guys just do not want to live in a world where you accept reality that there are barriers to economic progress based on certain factors when you lived in an inherently prejudiced and bigoted society. So of course, when you live in a country that built its wealth and even built the whole country, as Sam Wilson says in Falcon the Winter Soldier, on slavery, the stigma of that won't even go away even if you abolish everything. But America has taken steps to ensure that slavery even exists today, with the form of the war on drugs and the private prison industry, where often disproportionately imprisoned people for non-violent drug offences are minorities who are then put to work as, like, you know, in California, as these firefighters who get paid $1 a day. Tell me that isn't slave labour. So someone else chimed in with this thing on Fox News, Michael Loftus, and he said, "It's so sad when Captain America is like Captain Woke or Captain Propaganda. I'm done with Captain America. He's dead. Did I miss an issue where he was kidnapped by a liberal arts professor and was forced to move to Portland?" Loftus continued, "It's just more proof the left is going to come after everything the real Americans hold near and dear. They tried to cancel baseball, apple pie, and now Captain America. Maybe they'll change his outfit. Maybe now instead of a shield he'll be armed with a laptop and will have exciting adventures where he sits in coffee shops and tweets mean things, and he's an active fact checker on Facebook." So I want to get into old school Captain America and how the left hasn't suddenly come for Captain America to make him propaganda for us. But I also want to talk about Stan Lee and sort of the environment of Marvel Comics. Now, Stan Lee did not create Captain America. He had a hand in his development and in certain aspects of his character. He did not invent the character, though. But Stan Lee is, of course, you know, this driving force in Marvel Comics, and he's the son of Romanian Jewish immigrants to America. And he had a segment often in the old comics called Stan's Soapbox. So I want to kind of dispel the notion that Marvel Comics hasn't always been like progressive, even from like a liberal point of view. So we're going to read a couple of these and then go on to old school Captain America and look at the host of issues it's covered in its decades-long run and how it's always been woke. So Stan's Soapbox, here's one of them. "Let's lay it right on the line. Bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costume supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the snoot or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal them for the insidious evils they really are. The bigot is an unreasoning hater, one who hates blindly, fanatically, indiscriminately. If his hang-up is black men, he hates all black men. If a redhead once offended him, he hates all redheads. If some foreigner beat him to a job, he's down on all foreigners. He hates people he's never seen, people he's never known, with equal intensity, with equal venom. Now, we're not trying to say it's unreasonable for one human being to bug another, but although anyone has the right to dislike another individual, it's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion. Sooner or later, we must learn to judge each other on our own merit. Sooner or later, if man is to ever be worthy of his destiny, we must fill our hearts with tolerance, for then and only then will we be truly worthy of the concept that man has created in the image of God, a God who calls us all his children." So that's pretty woke, and here's the driving force behind Marvel Comics writing that in Marvel Comics. So here's another one, Stan's Soapbox. "From time to time, we receive letters from readers who wonder why there's so much moralizing in our magazines. So it sounds like the original Anti-SJWs. They take great pains to point out that comics are supposed to be escapist reading and nothing more. But somehow I can't see it that way. It seems to me that a story without a message, however subliminal, is like a man without a soul. In fact, even the most escapist literature of all, old-time fairy tales and heroic legends, contained moral and philosophical points of view. At every college campus where I may speak, there's as much discussion of war and peace, civil rights, and the so-called youth rebellion as there is of our Marvel mags. None of us lives in a vacuum. None of us is untouched by the everyday events about us, events which shape our stories just as they shape our lives. Sure, our tales can be called escapist, but just because something's for fun doesn't mean we have to blanket our brains when we read it. Excelsior, Stan Lee. And how relevant that message is for anti-SJWs, who like to say, get your politics out of my comics, games, and movies. It's meant to be an escape. I don't want to think about the real world. But there's the guy who invented and inspired so much of the media you hold dear today, so much of the media you claim to love, and he's saying this stuff should be influenced by contemporary issues. So now let's get to how ridiculous it is to complain about Captain America going woke. So I'm going to show you various comic slides from across the decades of the various issues that Captain America would cover. So thanks to Lonely Star 22 here, who sent me this. Captain America 296 has him literally fighting homophobia during the 80s when homophobia exploded during the AIDS crisis. So here is a panel. So his character says, "A funny song, isn't it, Steve? A funny song about a funny little man, a pot-bellied, bald-headed wretch who doesn't know a thing about real human love. I'm a stuttering freak. I'm a menace to society, a disease. And you, star-spangled idiot, you call me friend. What does that say about you? Most people simply hate men like me, yet you always treat me with respect, compassion. Why? Is it because you're one of us? Is it because deep inside, under all the macho bravado, you're really a sorry excuse for a man like me? What kind of man are you hiding underneath the chainmail? You stupid silly. No more, I can't. Oh, Steve, it hurts. Help me make it stop. Make them stop." And Steve comes in and says, "Arnie, listen to me. No matter what words that force out of your mouth, you know the truth. You are not a freak. You're a good and decent man as I've ever known. They can't corrupt your love for Michael with their lives anymore than they can corrupt my love for Bernie. Do you hear me, Arnie? They're pariahs. They're the disease." So there is Captain America telling a gay man there's nothing wrong with being gay during the 1980s. Again, pretty woke of Captain America. So let's get to some other ones. So thanks to Captain America Steve Rogers at Let Rogers. So it says, he sided with student protesters against police, encouraging protesters. And the panel says, "I've been asked to speak to you today to warn America about those who try to change our institutions. But in a pig's eye, I'll warn you, this nation was founded by dissidents, people who wanted something better. There's nothing sacred about the status quo, and there never will be." So that's interesting that people say Captain America isn't woke. Here's another one from a Daredevil issue, I believe. So he picks up a paper, and Captain America says, "Not again. We broke international law invading Panama. Now we're breaking the law again with this fabricated drug war. Why can't we leave Latin America alone? Haven't we exploited them long enough?" And he says, "Why can't my country stand for something right for a change? This so-called drug war just fuels the military defense budget and erodes our civil liberties. We're on the wrong side of every war." So isn't that extremely scathing from Captain America? Not only is he woke, he's talking about contemporary politics and condemning them. And this is, of course, in the 1990s, early 1990s. Basically 30 years ago, way before Chris Evans's Captain America. So I don't like patriotism in really any forms. I don't like any forms of nationalism. But Captain America to me clearly is a liberal patriot. His view of patriotism is a very inclusive, progressive America. And that is what it has always seemed to be throughout his, I guess, inception to the present day. So here's him talking about this stuff, and I'm going to show you another panel as well. So he says, "Patriotism taken too far is fanaticism. No matter who you are or where you're from, foreigners aren't your enemy, son. I'm the son of immigrants. When I was a kid, it was my father's people, the Irish, who were looked down upon. They were called filthy foreigners, discriminated against. Is that the xenophobic America you want? All religions, all nationalities, we all want the same thing. To see our children go strong, to provide safety for our families, to live in quiet times. Peace, son. Isn't that why we became soldiers? To fight for a peaceful world." And in an older comic book strip, he says, "Listen to me, all of you out there. You were told by this man, your hero, that America is the greatest country in the world. He told you that Americans were the greatest people, that America could be refined like silver, could have the impurities hammered out and shine more brightly. He went on about how precious America was, how you needed to make sure it remained great. And he told you anything was justified to preserve that great treasure, that pearl of great price that is America. Why say America is nothing without its ideals, its commitment to the freedom of all men? America is a piece of trash. A nation is nothing, a flag is a piece of cloth. So again, that is also pretty woke, isn't it? And that is an older comic book there. So it's pretty clear Captain America's version of patriotism has always been based on a liberal interpretation of patriotism. And like I said, I don't agree with patriotism, but it's, you know, a nicer form. It's like, you know, America is a nation of immigrants, and for all our flaws, there is some good in the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights, and we should come together to fulfill that dream. And it doesn't matter, you know, what your background is, what your religion is, what your nationality is. We are all Americans. He has criticized and condemned people who are criticizing him now and suddenly thinking that Captain America has gone woke all of a sudden, not that his character has fundamentally been this way. And what also makes me laugh as well is that it's not just the comics. Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, is also this liberal progressive American, because, you know, in The Winter Soldier, he strongly disagrees with what S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to do to make the world safer. Of course, it turns out to be a Hydra plot, but he doesn't know that, and he disagrees with that, you know, pretty strongly. And also he disagrees with the Sokovia Accords as well, goes on the run from America because he disagrees with that so strongly. Here is a guy who often stands up for what he believes in and stands up to authoritarianism and stands up to things that he thinks will make America worse. So why do conservatives seem surprised at this? And I think it plays into a lot of my videos, is that conservatives often just take narratives as they are. So like I was saying about Steve Rogers in the MCU, they're just along for the ride. Like, they watch the film, they watch The Winter Soldier, or they watch Civil War, and it's just a fun action movie. And that is kind of what it is. But there is themes and there is context. And if you're going to criticize Captain America in a political way, then maybe you should understand the politics of the films you're watching, however liberal or however much they're taking a back seat from the action. And then if you're a comic book fan who's coming for Captain America and saying, you know, what a woke piece of garbage he's become, then maybe just, you know, understand the history of when these comics were written, who wrote these comics, who created this stuff, what Stan Lee, the driving force behind Marvel, was like, how Captain America has always been a liberal progressive. And the main thing here is, I don't care if you like Captain America. Like, you can hate him as a character, conservatives. You can hate him for being woke forever. But the funny thing to me is that these guys are acting like this happened 2 or 3 years ago. Like, he suddenly became woke, and before he was like this golden American boy who would have voted for every Republican president, who would have voted for Donald Trump, who will not accept criticism of America, who will not accept dissent against America. But in the comics, time and again, he always has problems with America. He always has problems with what the government does. He always has problems with contemporary issues in society, even taking a stance that is not popular at the time it was written. If you claim to be this big Captain America fan, maybe understand the character before you start criticizing him in a political way. This is nothing new. It's, you know, a new entry into loads of stuff conservatives act like have been ruined, or act like are actually conservative, because they fundamentally do not understand the media they claim to love. And, you know, I've got tons of videos on this. Go check out the ones about BioShock and Red Dead and Abby Shapiro and her husband, or Ben Shapiro talking about Blade Runner and stuff like this. Anyway, that is it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram, come join our communities on Discord and on my subreddit. Come support me on Patreon if you feel like I'm worth supporting, and if you've made it this far, thank you for watching.